right, ladies and gentlemen, it is no crazy thing to say that Brandt has been a character when we think about things like his bugs, when we think about things like his bug fixes, when we think about sort of like the drama surrounding male characters as a whole. He is a character that's been a wide topic of discussion. But I don't think there's been a lot of creators focusing on the fact that, well, he is one of the first male characters that is coming to one of the big gacha games. One of the first ones in a very, very, very long time. When we think about limited 5-star male characters that games have been releasing in the past couple of months, right? We have Genshin Impact coming in with Kinich, however the hell you pronounce it, way back at the start of Natlan, the start of 5.0. They haven't had a male character since. Wuthering Waves has not had a male character released since Zhang Liao back in version 1.2. And of course, you have games like ZZZ, where their last male character was Lighter. I think that was last year. I'm not really sure when that was, but Lighter was the last male character they've had. It is safe to say that there's been a bit of a drought with, I think, Honkai Star Rail. Their latest release was like Sunday, back at the end of last year. It turns out Honkai Star Rail is kind of like the game that's having the most. The last one was Harumasa. I forgot. I completely forgot Harumasa was a character. My bad. Yeah, he was just free, and I heard he's free and, like, just bad. And so it's kind of like he's been erased from everybody's memory. I know he's high skill cap, but still he's like free, and then Miyabi came out, so everyone's playing her and not him. You guys get the message. And so it seems like Glaive is one of the creators over here that's really addressing this situation, and I'm excited to see what he has uncovered or what he's going to break down. So let's go ahead, let's get right on into it and see why Wuthering Waves shows that Brandt is the male character that gacha games desperately need.
Brandt is a hot topic right now, and honestly, he might be the hottest topic ever. Like, the man is out here breaking records and later on bank accounts. He is the most hyped up male character in Wuthering Waves right now, which is saying a lot considering that Scar exists, or at least...
I mean, to be fair, he might be the most hyped up male character in Wuthering Waves right now. He's also the only male character that's been releasing in Wuthering Waves right now. I think we just went over it. It was Zhang Liao all the way back in 1.2. And it's basically only been female characters since, if we're being entirely honest. And Zhang Liao, of course, ladies and gentlemen, was given out for free.
He used to exist in our minds before Brandt showed up and completely erased him from everyone's memory. And it's not just empty hype. Brandt's drip marketing post on Twitter is the second most liked among all of the Arena Seeds resonators. And before you get all technical, yes, I know Cantarella exists. She is the head of the Vesalias and everything, but even she couldn't beat out the captain of the Fool's Troop.
And I think the thing that really spoke out the loudest when it comes to Brandt getting the most is I'm not necessarily even sure if it was a lot of people liking Brandt just because of his design and just because of his teasing, or if it's people just liking Brandt because he's a male. Because I would say, I agree that it's safe to say that there's a large portion of like the gacha gaming population that is not a dude. And in those situations, right, having like a nicer looking male character for them to like pull on, for them to save towards, for them to look forward to is a big draw. I'd like to think back to, you know, probably the most similar game in the genre to Wuba. You have games like Genshin Impact, right? And you have those characters like Nuvolette, you have the characters like Zhongli, you have the Childs, and they are kind of like, they have an incredibly large and incredibly dedicated fan base. I remember that one time where I was seeing somebody with like a Nuvolette body pillow taking it to a restaurant. There's a lot of like parasocial people out there, and they're just kind of looking for an opportunity to dig their fangs into something. And Brandt was kind of like the first one to come out. Of course, you had Jian at release, and then you had Zhang Liao 2 patches afterwards, but it's been dry ever since.
Whenever this guy is on screen, he just has that charisma. Something about him pulls focus. As a pirate and a performer, Brandt is literally built for the spotlight. It's like he has the main character energy in every single cutscene. And let's be real, we love to see it. But for those of you living under a rock, Brandt is an upcoming 5-star fusion sword character, set to debut in the second half of version 2.1. He's not just your average flashy swordsman though. Brandt leads the Troop of Fools. In essence, the Troop of Fools is a group of outcasts turned artists, using their performance as both a shield and a weapon to challenge the authority, preserve their freedom, and seek justice in the world of Wuthering Waves. Learning more and more about Brandt makes me feel like I want to break my free-to-play status for him. My free-to-play pride, yeah, no longer matters when it comes to him.
If you like male characters, the #1 way for them to release more is, of course, to actually spend and to actually pull on the male character banners. And I think that Kuro is doing something pretty interesting when it comes to their shop. I'm gonna go pull up something from their main webpage, and hopefully the music doesn't gank me. The music ganked me. I kind of view these packages that we're seeing over here, these sort of like special bundles where you have the opportunity to spend like 10 bucks, get some tides, get some astrite, 30 bucks, get even more, and then another 10 for the weapon. I kind of view things like this as almost like Kuro's measure of how much people kind of want a character, because these refresh basically every single time a new banner comes around. They're obviously like super, I don't think this one is as valuable as this one, but they're higher value than just buying astrite from the shop. And you know, people could just be buying these just because they're higher value. But at the end of the day, I think that most people, they'll like wait on these. They'll wait to spend on these until the character that they're looking for, right? That they maybe couldn't save up for. They pulled on a previous banner that's banner the prior patch or in the prior cycle of the patch. This is kind of like where they measure it. And so I view this as sort of like the #1 step for people to get that sort of support for male characters. You got to start buying these whenever one of them is on banner, even the reruns. So next time Gion comes around, you know what to do.
His personality is this perfect blend of carefree and deeply caring. He will make you laugh with his flamboyant antiques at 1 minute and then turn around and melt your heart with his genuine concern for his troop. He is the kind of character who would steal your wallet and then use it to buy you a nice dinner just to make sure you're still eating well. And if that's not a 5-star personality, I don't know what is. Also, can we talk about his hobbies for a second? The guy loves feeding pigeons and taking strolls on the beach. I mean, come on. How do you go from being the
Bro probably knows more about Brandt. I feel like bro did more research, did more studies on Brandt than like even the most dedicated mains. Where did he even find 90% of that fucking information? Where did he even... It's like he played the story quest without even playing the story quest. Was he like stalking like the Resonator profile and all of that shit? That's kind of crazy. I'm gonna be real here. This is almost reaching stalker status. I'm gonna be real. I feel like you shouldn't be knowing half of the stuff that you're talking about right now, buddy.
Strolls on the beach. I mean, come on. How do you go from being the unpredictable full-of-life captain of the Fool's Troop to being the guy who probably carries breadcrumbs in his pockets just to make sure his pigeon friends are fed? It is giving major good boy vibes, and I am here for it. But let's not beat around the bush. Brandt's design is absolute peak. High-collared open shirt, white jeans, and a color...
I don't think Glaive's gonna beat the allegations after this one. I don't think Glaive's gonna be beating the allegations after this one. Holy moly. This is... You remember how I was talking about the guy or the gal that was bringing the new Valette body pillow to the restaurant? Glaive kind of strikes me as the guy that would bring a Brandt body pillow to a restaurant. No joke. I do think he would do it. I think he would do it for like 5 or 10 subs, if I'm being entirely real. I really think he would. In fact, I don't even think it would be a sub goal. I think he would do it for free. I think he'd do it for the clout.
Color palette that just works. He has got this perfect mix of dashing and theatrical, like if Captain Jack Sparrow went through a Kuro Games glow up. He is also a bit of a drunk and kind of narcissistic, but in a way that is charming instead of obnoxious. The man is unpredictable, confident, and most importantly, genuinely cares about his troop. You just know he is the type to be 3 bottles in, making a fool of himself, but then seamlessly shift into protective mode if anyone messes with his crew. It is character depth like this that makes him feel so real. And here's the thing, Brandt is not just ushering in a new wave of great male characters, he's a full-on revolution. One of the things Wuthering Waves does exceptionally well is building its world through its characters, and the Rena Sita cast is a prime example of this. Rachia, Phoebe, Zani, Carlotta, when you put all of these personalities together, you get a genuinely dynamic character set. They each bring something unique to the table, and standing at the center of it all is Brandt, the vibrant, unpredictable heart of the troop, and it's no wonder he stands out. The man is not just riding the wave, he is the wave.
And I think they did an exceptional job with the design of his character. I think they really do make him sort of feel like he's stealing the show, while Rosia's like kind of in the background, making sure things are working together, making sure that things are getting settled and that there isn't any big problems with how the show actually goes down. I'm excited to see what kind of further role he's going to play in the story quest, how much involvement the Fool's Troop is going to have. I expect that there's going to be a third member. There's going to be a third member to the Fool's Troop that gets revealed at some point, and who knows? Who knows how the dynamic is going to evolve from there? Maybe that third member of the Fool's Troop is also going to be one of the hardest characters to build in the game at an optimal level, and, you know, kind of like complete the dynamic trio of account bricking echoes. I think the one thing that people that like male characters should be glad about is the fact that, at least in the lore, for every male character that's been released, right? Your Zhang Liaos, your Jians, and your Brandts, they're not like background characters. They're all like at least extremely capable. They perform huge roles in the actual, like, in the story, in the game lore. Jian's like a general. Zhang Liao's like the best scientist that Jinzhou has. And, you know, he's the person that's like making wishes come true for all the children. Basically like I don't know, gotcha Santa Claus. And then you also have Brandt, right? Who's the captain who constantly breaks out of jail, you know, gets his posse to turn him in for a bounty, and then he breaks out of jail. And then also, you know, pilots the whole ship. These aren't like male characters that are just like jobbers, right? They're not just like throwaway characters where they just feel like, it feels like they're just fitting like a male quota, where, you know, maybe some characters in Genshin Impact or maybe Honkai Star Rail kind of feel like they are. I'm talking about you, Zhao Kui. I'm saying his name right. Zhao Kui from Honkai Star Rail. The 5-star limited male nihility debuffer that's just like a chef or something like that, that's supposed to like heal people but doesn't really even heal. Like, there are some like throwaway designs that you'll see in other gacha games, and in Wuwa, at the very least, they're not giving them those sort of like just afterthought treatment like you might find in other gacha games.
Community hype for Brandt is off the charts. Social media is a minefield of thirst and excitement, and honestly, scrolling through it is like taking a dive into the deep end of the simping pool. It's like Brandt's existence is a social media stress test. How much collective simping can one platform handle before it just implodes? Apparently, we're about to find out, but let's get real for a little bit. Gacha games need more characters like Brandt, actual men. A charismatic, layered male character who isn't afraid to be both bold and vulnerable. And the market is practically screaming for it. Games like Love in Deep Space has been crushing it in revenue, consistently sitting in the top 5 for months.
I wouldn't necessarily, I'd kind of hesitate to kind of be like upwardly pushing forward Love in Deep Space like this. The way that I view Love in Deep Space is it's almost like, it's kind of like 3D Nikkei, but it's dudes instead of girls. That's kind of like the vibe it gives me, like kind of like good story, but then it's just this, it's kind of just porn. It's kind of just like softcore porn in the game. And the way that I view it is just like not Nikkei from like the story or the interactions, but kind of like the main appeal, the main draw. I don't know how much of Love in Deep Space is necessarily like the bonds that you're forming with like these 3D PNGs, and how much of it is just basically like the game just being softcore porn. That's how I kind of view Love in Deep Space. Kind of like how I view like Nikkei or games like Brown Dust 2 or Azure Lane as kind of just like softcore porn. That's one of the big draws. That's kind of like one of the big appeals of that genre. And I think it's safe to say that Love in Deep Space is kind of like the first game of that genre to really go mainstream. Maybe there are like ones that I haven't really thought about, or ones that, you know, are kind of like at the cusp of going mainstream. I know MiHoYo has like Tears of Themis, but like nobody even really talks about that game aside from the fact that they had like a Teletubby collab. That was like fucking weird. But it's just, it's kind of like one of the forefront runners in that genre. I don't know how much of it is due to the characters and like their design and kind of like their emotional vulnerability, all of that stuff, or just like the fact that Love in Deep Space is, and I'll say it again, basically porn.
These games are proof that strong male leads aren't just a fan service for the waifu fatigue, they are a legitimate draw. And the best part, they broaden the appeal of the game to a more diverse audience. Brandt isn't just here to be an eye candy, he is here to elevate the entire experience. And this is not a new territory for Kuro either. Even back in Punishing Grey Raven, their male character designs were straight up iconic. Lee Hyperreal and Watanabe Epitaph, Chef's Kiss. These guys weren't just popular, they were a phenomenon. They were the type of characters that make you want to grind for hours, just to unlock their full potential. It is the same story with Wuthering Waves, where Kuro has doubled down on the high quality male designs. I mean, before the game even launched, Kalcharo was the most wanted character. When the demand—
They fucked him. He was the most wanted character. So many individuals decided to spend their 5-star selector on Kalcharo. And then it turns out in actual gameplay, actually trying to use him in the end game, using him in content that's not a complete joke or the overworld. Brother Man has so many problems that you can't even list them out in a 20-page Google document. He has issues. He has problems. And I don't even know how much of Kalcharo being like bad was just like the devs not having the foresight, or how much of it was like them, you know, intentionally trying to nerf male characters. I honestly think that in his original design, he was perfectly fine, but he just didn't. I think it feels like he was designed really early on in the game's life cycle to interact with mechanics that aren't there. Bro needs like a shield, bro needs interruption resistance, and he doesn't have those in his kit. And the end result is that if you aren't quick swapping every 3 seconds, like, you know, like a 10-year-old on crack who just discovered, like, you know, what control groups were in an RTS, you're not like ever going to reach his full potential. And it's just so inaccessible to a large portion of the player base that, yeah, it kind of just, it killed him. It killed the character. He actually might be like the character with like the lowest street cred in the game. He might genuinely be like the one character with like the worst reputation in the genre. 1,000,000%.
For a character is that high before they were even playable, you know the studio is doing something right. Gacha needs more of this. It needs more Brandts, more Golcharos, more men who not only look good, but also have the depth and charisma to back it up.
Brandt succeeded where Calcharo failed, having a good kit that actually feels good to play. It is fair to say that Brandt might actually have like the best feeling kit in the game. From the perspective of like all of his stuff really feels like it works together. There's just so much fluidity. Every action kind of flows into the next one. And you just get this vibe that you're doing a lot of cool shit with him every time he's on the field. They gave him room for complexity in the quick swap, but they also made him very easy to play in a standard rotation once you get a couple of reps in. And if I were to compare like kind of just like the kit design from like Brandt to Calcharo, it is literally like night and day. But if we are being fair, if we are being honest, every new male character that Kuro's released so far has had an amazing kit. Zhang Liao, who's the only other male character released since the start of the game, has an amazing kit that can flow into so many different things, feels great to play, great to use, great to experiment with. And Brandt is kind of exactly the same. I would even dare say that Brandt and Zhang Liao are probably, from like a DPS perspective and a playstyle perspective, they might be like the best designed characters in the game, if I'm being entirely real. I honestly feel like they are some of the best designed characters in the game, just from like a gameplay feel perspective. And that level of effort, that level of care, that's something that Kuro didn't really need to do. They could have saved these super fun kits that feel awesome to use, and they could have put them on entirely different characters and completely sandbagged the male banners and the male design, but they decided not to. And so those kind of like rumors, right, that Kuro just hates male characters, that Kuro just is like, you know, planning on just making the gender ratio like 95% female and 5% male, while you could say there's some validity because of how little males there are, every time there is a male, Kuro puts a lot of work into it. And you can say the exact same thing about PGR, right? What Glaive was talking about before with like Watanabe, Epitaph, and whoever this new white guy is. Those characters, they feel great. Wan Shi, they feel great to use. They're super popular. And that really doesn't happen unless the devs actually give a fuck about the character. And let me be honest, the devs really do here. And it shows.
Call for quality male characters that go beyond the standard gacha tropes, and Brandt is leading the charge. But of course, handsome man is like a magnet to insane people, Glaive Q included. The great energy recharge controversy. You probably heard the noise by now. Brandt supposedly needs a whopping 280% ER to function properly. Naturally, this sent a chunk of the community into a spiral. I mean, can you blame them though? When you heard 280% ER, you immediately picture your Echo Rolls laughing at you. The criticism was loud and clear. People were worried that Brandt would be this energy vampire, constantly draining your team's resources and leaving you in a never-ending grind for the perfect build.
To be fair, he kind of is. He kind of is. I think the main comparison that was being drawn was Brandt reaching his full potential compared to a Shorekeeper reaching her full potential. Shorekeeper, right, to get her full buffs on her Stellar Realm, it's like 250% ER, and you can get that by not really investing that much at all. Because she has a ton of like, she has an echo skill that gives her ER. She has an inherent that gives her 10%. And so her real threshold, right, for full buffs was like 200,000%. 30. And then Brandt's kind of like over here, we don't see any ER built into his kit, and it's just like cap of 280. And so obviously, right, he still performs without reaching the full 280. He's still fine on Emerald of Genesis and the Fusion set. But it's kind of like knowing that the ceiling for reaching a character's full potential was so much lower on other units that have had similar requirements. And then Brandt's kind of like coming in with like, you know, his huge 280 ER, you know, like kind of like cloud looming over his head. You don't need to reach it for it to work, but it's like, why is his ceiling so much higher than other characters that have been introduced with the ceiling too? That was kind of like a focus of the discussion as well, that I don't think a lot of people think about.
His liberation being tied to his healing, shielding, and buffs didn't help ease those concerns either. If he really needed that much ER, it could turn him into a clunky mess. But here's the reality. Saying that you need to reach 280% ER is just not true. The truth is, Brandt only needs about 200% ER to function well. You don't even need to build him like a maxed out battery. You just need a bit of ER and at least 200% and the right team setup.
All right, Glaive, I hope you're mentioning Molten Rift, because if you're you might accidentally advise somebody for using Tide-Breaking Courage with 200% ER. And if somebody does that, they're actually completely fucked. So I hope he clarifies that that's with Molten Rift. I pray that somebody doesn't watch this video and goes 200 ER on Tide-Breaking Courage.
Player experiences are mixed, but mostly in a good way. Early testers are saying that while Brandt's gameplay can feel a little bit intense, it could also feel incredibly satisfying once you get the hang of it. There is a learning curve, sure, but once you're in the zone, it feels like less of a chore and more like a rhythm game. You just have to hit the right notes. Some players even enjoy the twist in his ER scaling, seeing that it has a unique challenge rather than a drawback. But in the end, it's all about perspectives. If you want a character that plays it safe and fits nearly into every team comp, Brandt might not be your guy. But if you're looking for someone with high risk and high reward, Brandt is exactly what the doctor ordered. And let's be honest, it's a gacha game. Pull for who you like and don't care about anything else, to be honest.
I would say that Brandt is actually one of the safest and easiest to use characters in the game, once you figure out how his kit works. Bro heals, bro shields. Bro has a shield that isn't shared across the party, so everybody has their own individual shield. So if you like shield with Brandt and then get smacked and then go to a new character, the shield is like back to full value. I would have to say he kind of is one of like the best skill issue characters in the game, from the perspective of he will let you like make more mistakes and be punished less for them on average. If I were to combine Brandt and Shorekeeper into like one team, you have the Shorekeeper dodge reset upon being hit. Like you can cancel the stagger animation from like getting hit and getting thrown with the dodge, and then you just cancel the damage in the first place with Brandt shield. I'm gonna be real, it's a little bit like playing Zhongli. It's like a tiny bit like playing Zhongli if you have that sort of defensive buffing on one team. And let's be honest here, Brandt, Changli, and Shorekeeper is one of the most popular combos. So it's made Changli, right, one of the hardest characters to play in the game, typically at a high level, have even more tools to make her even easier to pilot and easier to get full value out of. Brandt solves a lot of problems for a lot of players. He might be actually one of the best casual units in the game.
Alright, but here's the bottom line. Wuthering Waves is not one of those games where you need to stress over perfect stats or crunch numbers like a Wall Street analyst. It's not about min-maxing every single character to the point where your echo rolls dictate your happiness. You don't need a PhD in gacha mechanics to enjoy the game. You just need a bit of strategy and a lot of passion. The key is to learn the game, understand your characters, and build them decently. I'm not saying to throw caution to the wind and run Brandt on full defense percent with no ER. Please, for the love of echoes, please don't do that. But you also don't need to lose sleep over hitting a magical 280% ER. There is a balance, and finding that sweet spot is a part of the fun. And look, at the end of the day, this is a gacha game. It's supposed to be fun, not a spreadsheet simulator. If Brandt's flamboyant personality, wild charisma, and stylish vibe makes your heart do a little dookie dookie, who cares if your build isn't perfect? It's like dating an anime. Sometimes you don't need a 10 out of 10 waifu. Sometimes you just want the girl that makes good omurice, or at least someone that puts their heart in it. Ultimately, playing the game your way is the secret sauce. Whether Brandt becomes your main carry, or you just enjoy his banter during the side quest, it's your experience. Gacha is all about finding joy in the journey, not obsessing over the meta.
We're gonna be honest though. We have to think about the audience here. Get a little bit real with ourselves. If you're on YouTube looking up videos about Wuthering Waves, chances are you probably do care about the meta, and you do care about making your characters as strong as they can. You do care about optimizing your resources. Like, you don't want to like waste things or like do things that will like put you behind or set you back. You want to make the most efficient use of your wave plates, the most efficient use of your limited resources. That's kind of like what I would expect from somebody that's going on YouTube, searching up guides to the game, searching up how to like play certain characters. I think that's a fair assumption to make. And you know, talking about how hard a character is to optimize, how hard a character is to, reach the ceiling of relative to others, I think that's a fair thing to say, especially when it's baked into the line of their kit. So, I mean, when it comes to when it comes to the game as a whole, I can definitely see where the reasoning is, right? But if we're talking about YouTube and we're talking about meta-related content and we're talking about like guides and how to build characters and how to do rotations, I think that talking about Brandt's 280 ER, I think it's a perfectly fine thing to do for that sort of audience. And guess what? That's kind of what my channel does. I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel bad at all about discussing Brandt's 280 ER. I don't even run 280 ER on my Brandt because I have a fusion damage piece. But I know that if I want to min-max my build and reach that full potential, it will basically ruin my account from all the echo re-rolling to get him there. But that's a goal that I can have, right? That's a goal that I can work towards across the lifetime of the game. That's kind of like one of those carrots, right? That might keep me continually echo farming or continually grinding or looking to perfect that build at the end of the day. And when it comes to a gacha game, when it comes to replayability, when it comes to all of that, I don't think that's a bad thing to have. But people should know how hard that final journey is going to be, especially, right, considering how other characters have a much easier path to getting like their 4 out of 5s or their 5 out of 5s on their echo pieces. That'll be like my final take on the Brandt matter. He's a good character, but to make him feel the best that he can possibly be, he's a lot harder than everybody else.
Pull on that banner, embrace the chaos, and have fun. Because when the pull animation rolls and Brandt steps into your screen, trust me, you know it was worth it.
Bro just used Tectone Stream as his outro. That's absolutely insane. Bro was like about to reach 8 minutes and then he just caps it off with this in a sponsored video. That's nuts. That is nut. I'm gonna be real here. I've got to give Glaive some credit for that one. That's both intelligent, but also it's like, holy shit. It's a good thing it's at the end of the video. I don't think a lot of people are necessarily going to see that final part. But with that, I think Glaive really raised some great points throughout this entire thing. I think that there is a track record of Kuro Games, right? A track record of Kuro Games in making, whenever they do make a male character, even though it is rare, they make them really good. They make them have a story impact. They make them somebody that's actually worth pulling just from like an emotional story perspective, but also from a gameplay perspective as well. And I'm excited to see what they do more of in the future. We still got Geshu, Lin, and Scar on the horizon. And at the end of the day, right, they're characters that the community was teased to really early on. They've had some badass moments in the story, but we just gotta wait at this point. And who knows how many people are willing to stay until that time is up. So maybe Kuro's gonna start fast tracking some stuff, getting them released sooner. We know how long it must take to get a character designed. There's a lot of work that goes into the roster. So with that, let me know what you all think. Peace.